Okay, gents, let's focus on Premier League match week 23. Let's preview it. Obviously, the big game of the weekend, Chelsea against Tottenham and also Man United against West Ham, that headlines. Let's start off with that United against West Ham game at Old Trafford. Andy, this is a top four battle, essentially. West Ham obviously slipped up a few times recently, but still hanging in there under David Moyes. And he's taken them to Man United, and Ralph Rangnick's side really struggling to get going, especially in attack. What are you looking for in this game this weekend?
An in-form side versus an out-of-form side, and it's not the way it's not who you would think it would be. Just given the names and the resources and the players on the squads, West Ham had a little bit of a slip up there. I think in October and November, and they came out of it in December, and they really battled back. And I think that they showed that not only do they have staying power in that top four race, but I just think that they have the perfect manager that is in place at that club right now with the players that they have, the mentality that they have to try and take on the establishment of the Premier League, if you will, and to break into that. Obviously, Moyes has done it before at Everton, trying to do it again now at West Ham. And I just look at Manchester United, and then all I see is chaos. It's more chaos. Obviously, they're trying to put a long-term plan into place with Rangnick taking over for the 6 months and then doing the consultancy thing. But I just don't know how much or how effective that can be this season, because the team was built, if you believe that it was built with a plan in place, it was built for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the last 3 seasons. And so he was the one giving that influence on who was signed and who was brought in to fit kind of the way that maybe he wanted to play. Those players don't fit Rangnick's system at all. And I think they're really struggling to take to his ideas. And so either it's going to have to be somebody completely new that comes in as manager in the offseason with different ideas, or the entire squad is going to have to be cleared out. I think it's a little bit easier to change one manager than it is an entire squad. And so this is the best West Ham team that we've seen, period, in the Premier League era, in the time that I've been watching the sport. And I am very curious to see if they can put Manchester United aside just a little bit, Arsenal and Tottenham. That is such an interesting little three-way battle there in London. Clubs of very similar size, similar resources, maybe not quite the same commercial pull for West Ham, but a couple more seasons there in those top spots and competing on that bigger stage, and they will have those same things to sell to players they're trying to go out and sign. So I kind of like West Ham in this one. They're just really difficult to break down, difficult to beat. And I know they struggled with Leeds over the weekend, but that was kind of a galvanizing performance for Leeds. I think West Ham bounced back in this one, and they get something out of this game. I kind of think they win it, actually.
I'm kind of with you. They didn't play badly against Leeds United. Leeds were clinical, and they obviously lost that game 3-2, but could have easily won it 4-3. It was a crazy game, and they've actually picked up more points away from home than at home this season, West Ham. They're a very good away team when teams like to open up and come at them. You've got Jared Bowen, Antonio Fornals, and others just leading counterattacks and being absolutely ruthless. So West Ham go into this game 5 points ahead of Man United. Man United do have 2 games in hand over them, so they have that. And this feels like a big game. If United win, they're closer to West Ham, could overtake them with the game in hand. But if they lose this, then I don't want to say it's curtains for their top 4 hopes, but it's going to be a long way back, considering they're giving West Ham even more ground, and the Hammers are doing really well. For United, I would say Ronaldo, obviously Marcus Rashford, coming back to fitness after missing them recently. Yes, they haven't been in great form, but maybe that's what they needed, a few games out of the firing line, and a bit more relaxation, a bit more, okay, you need to recover. And it's been tough for these United players, I think, to take on Rangnick's ideas mid-season. Obviously, a very different style of play. But yeah, it is set up very nicely for West Ham to go to United. Obviously, they won there in the League Cup earlier this season. They seem to have a pretty good record at Old Trafford in recent years. So going to be interesting to see what they do, but I just, for some part of me, just thinks Man United are just going to keep doing what they do, which is somehow scrape a 1-0 win, or just Ronaldo's going to pop up late. I don't know. It's just that kind of thing for them this season. It's not pretty, but they seem to hang in there over the last few seasons when they need a win. And they do need one against West Ham this weekend to keep their top 4 hopes alive and on track. Nick, I'm looking at a huge game in West London, Chelsea against Tottenham. This is massive, again, for both teams in their season. Chelsea, obviously, lost at Manchester City last time out. Seems like their title hopes are totally over. For Tottenham, their top four battle, they're still doing well under Antonio Conte. Unbeaten, obviously, to start his Premier League reign, a long unbeaten run in that situation. What are you looking for in this game, mate? Because if Tottenham go to Chelsea and win, all of a sudden they could drag Chelsea into that battle for a top four spot, right? When all of a sudden we all thought they were going to be in a title battle, but maybe they're going to sink a little bit closer to those teams just below them.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say something a little bit wild, something you guys could be haunting me with for a couple of months. And Andy will. I can't wait. I'm not even looking at the camera. I'm looking at Andy's face for when I say this. Okay. Tottenham's very good. Tottenham is very good under Conte. And the underlying numbers are blowing my mind because it shows how good of a manager he is. They draw Liverpool a couple weeks ago. They deserve to win that game. He went all out. He had 2.8 expected goals in that game. And since then, if you combine the expected goals per game for Palace, Southampton, Watford, it's under 1 total. I mean, they are not giving teams chances. His system is working. And I just think that inevitably maybe he's gone in July when they don't buy the players he wants. But I favor them to finish fourth. I don't think you sleep. You don't have a bad game under him because you're terrified of him. And I think that it's the opposite of West Ham, okay? I look at West Ham, and I do, like you guys, think they're going to get something from Man United this weekend, but I wouldn't bet anything on them finishing in the top 5, maybe even the top 6. Tottenham, I don't know that they win. Chelsea has shown just how much more talent kind of they have right now in cohesion, and they could beat Spurs for the 3rd time in what, 2.5 weeks? So I don't know that Tottenham wins this weekend, but I believe in them. I really believe in them.
And that's very interesting to hear, Nick, because I think they're doing well under Conte, but I didn't really think they were doing that well, as you've just pointed out. But when you think about it, the main thing they need to do is sort out the defense, and Andy's mentioned that time and time again. Defensively, they got better, and with Kane and others, they're capable of nicking games 1-0, 2-0. Andy, on this game, Lukaku, Chelsea's attacking struggles, that kind of plays into Tottenham's hands as well, right, with their improved defensive displays. But what are you concerned or worried about for Spurs, and what do they have to do well to win at Chelsea, and what would be a massive statement win?
Yeah, again, I'm going to go back to the central midfield, and we talked during kind of the transfer segment this week where Spurs need to reinforce. It's also, as Nick pointed out in talking about Chelsea, where they are at one of their best parts of the field, one of their strongest units with the 3 that they've got in there. And so I just kind of look at that matchup and the way that Chelsea, especially in those 2 League Cup semifinal games, were able to control the game. They didn't completely dominate by creating 30 scoring chances in the game, but they were never ever in danger. The result was never really in doubt because the way they were able to control the game through possession and breaking up everything from Spurs, because Spurs just have no creativity, no fresh ideas there in the center of midfield. And so as soon as they win the ball back, it's a bunch of square sideways passers who are looking to pass the ball square and sideways to one another and not get it further up the field. And Chelsea, under Thomas Tuchel, will obviously have seen that in those couple of games, and they've taken advantage of that already. They'll look to do the same thing again. And so I don't like this matchup for Spurs this weekend, but I agree with a lot of what Nick said there in terms of, again, to go back to kind of something that I always mention with clubs that are struggling or looking longer term. There's a foundation that is now in place for Spurs under Conte. And if, as long as he stays there as manager, I hadn't really considered that maybe he's just gone in the summer, but it's, given the way that he has moved around in recent years, given the volatility of Daniel Levy with previous managers, it's certainly in play. But if they can keep him in that job, and they can keep him happy, and they can keep him fully engaged with the recruitment staff above him and the players below him, then they're set up for long-term success. They really are. They have a long-term manager, I think, who will build something special this weekend. Unless they're able to bring in a couple central midfielders in the next couple of days, I don't think is going to be their time to shine.
Chelsea versus Tottenham, a huge London derby, always is between these two teams, and feels huge in the direction of the second half of the season for both of these teams, right? If Tottenham win, totally gain belief that they can finish in the top 4. And if Chelsea lose, and all of a sudden on a bit of a slump, there's some issues attacking wise. Lukaku and Thomas Tuchel seem to be going at it a little bit too often on the pitch. And obviously in the media sections as well. So let's wait and see how this plays out. Feels like a massive, massive game for both Chelsea and Spurs, as they always are. And I'll be at Stamford Bridge, so I'm really looking forward to being there and sampling the atmosphere there in West London. It gets a bit feisty. I remember the Battle of the Bridge a few years ago being about 10 yards away from that absolute chaos that broke out. And it was some incredible scenes when these two teams meet. And I feel like their positions in the table just adds a little bit of extra spice if it needed anything to the game this weekend. Focus on some other games. Watford against Norwich, I think, is really interesting, Nick, especially in the relegation scrap. Obviously, Watford got a big point in Newcastle last time out. Norwich beat Everton. So this is massive, right, for these two teams to kind of continue to build a little bit of momentum heading into the second half of the season. So relegation scrap, I know you've got your eye close on it as a Newcastle fan. What do you want here? A draw in this game, I suppose?
Well, of course, that's what I want. I kind of, though, I mean, if I can look at it without bias, I kind of like to see them both win. I like Dean Smith. I think he's been given a pretty thankless opportunity here because he has to engineer what would be a minor miracle. And let's be honest, they're still in it only because Burnley and Watford and Newcastle haven't pulled away. You would think there might be, them out of the equation by now. But on the same hand, when I watched Watford and Newcastle last week, the talent disparity to me, especially with Sarr out, was on display in the first half as Newcastle wasted their chances. But Claudio Ranieri is a very good manager. There's a reason that he was once hired by Chelsea. He engineered a miracle at Leicester City. He did great at Sam over in Italy for a little bit of time. And I think he's a better manager than a lot of people realize, and he's going to engineer some results for them. The question is whether he's going to do it this weekend after all the effort they expounded to keep Newcastle beneath them. So I think this could be a lot of fun to watch, although it does have a bit of one of those safe nil-nils about it.
Relegation 6-pointer, right, Andy?
Yeah, I've written a lot of words this season about Watford. Hopeless, going straight back down, never learned from the last time they were in the Premier League. Norwich, and then Watford. They've got the attacking players to keep them up and keep them in the Premier League. They've got too much quality to go down. I might have to erase all those words because all of those things are kind of, Norwich are saving their season a little bit the last couple of weeks, and Watford are just in a free fall at the moment. So this is if you take away the two big games that we've already talked about for this week, this is the most interesting game, I think, because of the consequences that are going to be at hand.
Yeah, love a relegation scrap. It just ramps the intensity levels up so much in these games in the second half of the season. And going to be really interesting to see Watford against Norwich and who prevails. And whoever does, like I said, they gain momentum, confidence, and that's huge at this pivotal point of the season. So other games to keep an eye on: Crystal Palace against Liverpool. Got a whiff of an upset in the air there. Patrick Vieira's Palace played really well. Have obviously won away at Man City. Seemed to do well against the big boys. Liverpool, obviously, everyone's hoping for them to just hang in there with Man City, make it a longer title race and a bit of a stronger one. And so obviously they can't really drop many points between now and the end of the season. And historically, they've struggled a little bit away at Palace over the years. Everton against Aston Villa is a really intriguing one of Everton's managerial situation. Obviously, Steven Gerrard going to Everton as a coach with Villa, who have been playing pretty well, and Coutinho there coming in, and some of the obviously new signings, Lucas Dean going straight back to Everton. That's going to be interesting. Southampton against Man City. I don't think there's really a whiff of an upset there. Can City just keep steamrolling teams? Let's wait and see. And Leeds against Newcastle, another big game towards the bottom of the table. Leeds showed their quality against West Ham. Been looking really, really good in recent weeks, especially going forward with Rafinha and Jack Harrison really filling the shoes of Patrick Bamford, who remains out injured. And for Newcastle, they're getting better. Trippier's been really good going forward. They're still relying on St. Maximin heavily. Just feel like in midfield they need to get a bit more control of games, but it's going to be a really intriguing tactical battle, that one, Leeds against Newcastle, because Newcastle have to start picking up some wins, and Leeds, we know they go at it all out for the win throughout the entire 90 minutes. So a lot of fun stuff coming up in the Premier League in Matchweek 23 and at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. We'll have you covered with all the latest news from all those games, how to watch information, the schedule, stream links. 3 lads you can see on the screen will have you covered.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.